marching on the freedom land. Keep on walking, keep on talking, keep on walking, keep on talking.
You're listening to Black Belt, a podcast where we amplify the voices of Black folks down south, working towards solutions to some of our region's biggest challenges, all with a dash of well-seasoned Southern fun. Welcome to a special episode of Black Belt Voices. I'm Adena White.
And I'm Karama Wilkins.
And we are coming to you from inside the brand new production studio at the Central Arkansas Library System's main library in downtown Little Rock. And this space was closed for renovations for, 2 years, Kara?
Yeah.
And it's reopening to the public today. At the same time, they're having their Six Bridges Book Festival. So it's just a new chapter for the library. And they've used this language, so I can't take credit for that. But yeah, it's a new chapter for the library.
Great.
Book jokes. So Kara, before we get into our conversation that we had great conversations with some folks. But something we asked all of them was like, tell us your library story. So as a Little Rock native, Central High grad, what's your library story?
I loved books very early on. My mom was very intentional about making sure that we started reading to her. So actually, when we would have bedtime stories at 2, 3, 4 years old, instead of her reading to us, she'd give us the book and say, you read to me. So I just always loved reading. And so as soon as I was able to get my first library card, probably around elementary school, that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to go to the library. I wanted to get books. The closest library to me at that time, I lived in Midtown Little Rock, so it would have been Fletcher. Mm-hmm. And so that is the library I probably used the most. And Babysitter's Club was my favorite, as I think for most preteen, girls. And I just could not get enough, and she couldn't write the books fast enough. But then, once I kind of got to junior high, I was sort of like, well, let me get into some of these other things, and some things I probably shouldn't have. Like, oh, there's a Stephen King book. Let me read that. But I mean, that's the joy of the library, right? Mm-hmm. Is it gives you the opportunity to go and explore and learn and be exposed to things that maybe you don't learn at home or you haven't seen in other places. And so to me, it's a wondrous place. And then fast forward to me being an adult, like a 20-year-old adult. When I moved to Baltimore, Maryland, I could not afford cable because back then cable was like, the hook into your TV cable with the packet. And I was like, I don't have $60 a month to give to the cable people. So I went to the Baltimore branch of the library and got a library card, and I watched DVDs and VHS tapes for a year. Like, I told anybody who came to my house, like, if you're coming to my house, we're just going to get whatever DVD is at the library. Right. And that was my entertainment. So I say all that to say, like, libraries can play a different role in your life depending on where you're at. And I think, the true beauty of libraries is that they are transformative, which I think we talk about a little bit.
Yeah. And it was so good hearing from our guests because community was very central to everything everyone said, and that's something that we try to focus on here. But as a place-based podcast about the South, like, we love talking about community and, the ways that people can come together. So, we had great conversations with Karama Neal. Yeah. As, you all know, if you're a listener, I'm messing this up. Okay, Kara. Were you going to say their names?
No, you're fine. You were fine. Yeah, I'm going to say you were doing good. Yeah. Oh, there is a viewer area.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Felicia.
Oh, hey. Yeah, we are, okay, let me talk about the space for a minute.
Yeah.
Can I back up?
Let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. The thing about this space that we're in right now is that it is a production studio. So you can have a podcast here, you can do video here. They have equipment. We feel very legit right now with our elbow mics and all this stuff. Katrina's behind the little producer stand over there. And there's also a window where people can look in at us. So it's kind of like we're in a little fishbowl. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, this space is wonderful. What has been the favorite space that you've seen today, Adena, in the new library?
Yeah, like when you walk in, it's very bright and very open. And then if you happen to look up, you're going to see, quotes from authors and poets. And many of them are Black folks. Many of them are Southerners. Several are from Arkansas. And if you're not familiar with the person, for the Arkansans, they have the silhouette of Arkansas beside the name. So you know that that's in Arkansan with that quote up there. So even that was so intentional. Like the quotes on the ceiling, the way the space is laid out. We're going to hear more from our guests about like the purposeful design they had to make it more open and inviting. And it's just incredible.
I mean, you drew my attention to that because I didn't even know that was down there until you said something.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. So to your point, there's just been so much thought that has gone into this new branch. And so we're going to talk today with people who have helped bring this transformation to life. And they're going to talk to us a little bit about what it means for the community, what it means for connection, and what it means for the future of libraries as places where everyone belongs. And so first you'll hear from Dr. Karama Neal, who is the board president of CALS, and has joined us as a time guest and host of Black Belt Voices.
And we'll also hear from Nate Coulter. He is the executive director of CALS. He was a lot of fun to talk to.
And finally, you're going to hear a little bit from Tameka Lee, who is the Chief Communications and Community Engagement Officer for CALS. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
We are here with a friend of Black Belt Voices, Karama Neal. She's been on our show as a guest. She's been on our show as a guest host of Choosing Arkansas. And now she's here to guest chair again as the president of the CALS board, which is Central Arkansas Library System. So while we're sitting here in this new renovated library, tell us, what is your library story?
So first of all, thank you for having me back. I am definitely a friend of Black Belt Voices. Really thrilled to be here. I'm really thrilled that you all have chosen to use the library as a space to do this production. So thank you all for coming.
You're welcome.
We're thrilled today that on the day of this recording, we're here at the grand opening, and so it's just really a wonderful thing to be able to have you all here. Library is certainly close to my heart. I grew up here in Little Rock and going to the library on 6th Street and spending many, many hours there. One of the things, there's really two stories. So one is that I feel like that was sort of the place where I exercised my independence. I remember as a kid taking the bus from our house and getting off and going to the library. And my mom might pick me up after work, or if it was, during the summertime, or pick me up afterwards, or maybe I'd even take the bus home. But being a little kid, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, and taking the bus by yourself and doing those things, that was really a wonderful experience. And so being able to do that and know that I was going to the safety of the library in a place that was, just such a fun spot, and a space where you could learn and take all of the books you want and all those kinds of things was just a really wonderful thing. The other thing I'll say that I think the library, that I had personal engagement with was thinking about my daughter. So we moved away from Arkansas after high school and was gone for a total of about 18 years. And almost immediately when we came back, the first stop we made was coming to the library so that I could get my library card and so that I could get my then 2-year-old daughter her library card. And it was actually pretty moving. We got the card, and I remember giving her a Sharpie because she had to sign the back of the card. And she's 2, so she can't really sign her name. But I was like, make your mark. And, she made her mark on the library card. And she carried that card until it was time for it to expire. She had to get it replaced. But that was that card that she had that was like her first official document. Like the first thing that she signed, made her mark on, was her library card. And, when I think about that now and she's in college, when I think about our mission statement and we nurture potential, to me, that's just a perfect example of that.
It is, wow.
Karama, you're so wonderful. I love this. So what I love about you is that you often are very low key. I think you like to fly under the radar. One day, Karama and I were talking, and I said something about like how much I love cows, or like I was really excited about the library. And Karama goes, "Oh, well, yeah, I'm the board president." I was just kind of like, wait, what? So tell us a little bit about your work in that capacity, and how does one happen upon becoming the president of probably, I think, the largest library system in Arkansas?
Yeah, certainly in the state. I think we cover 11% of the population in the state of Arkansas. I think the thing to remember about the library and the library board is that we're a public institution, right? We're taxpayer supported. And so when we think about the people of Pulaski County and Perry counties, where our majority of our patrons are, it is that support that we really appreciate. And so the library board members are selected by the people of the representatives of those places. So I'm actually appointed by the mayor of Little Rock. I'm a Little Rock representative on the library. There are representatives from all the places in Pulaski County, from from Perry County as well, who make up that board. And so I'm pleased that Frank Scott saw fit to nominate me, and I was, of course, honored to serve. And I've been on the library, and I guess this is my second year on the library board, and so I'm pleased to serve as chair. I've served with the strategic planning team last year as we developed our new strategic plan. And that was a really helpful thing to do in preparation. I didn't know I was going to be chair at that point, but in preparation for being chair was a really helpful thing because we got to, as I was the only board representative on the strategic planning team, and so we got to meet with all the folks in the staff at the library. I got to meet with patrons in the library. I got to meet with community members who may not yet be patrons, but could be, and talk about the library, hear their concerns, hear their questions, hear their desires for that, and make sure that that was reflected in the strategic plan. And so that was a really nice sort of foundation to build on to end up being chair.
And you are a perfect fit for that because you are very community minded. Like you live in the downtown area.
I walked here today.
Yes, you walk everywhere. You walk to the nearby art center. So community is very important to you. So when you think about this public institution, talk about how vital it is for the community, specifically to Little Rock and Central Arkansas.
Yeah. So, I feel like I have to sort of contextualize that. Like, my family's from Arkansas. And, when I think about my parents and that generation and having to have, frankly, colored day at the library, right? Or, not having access or having limited access. When I think about the library and strictly the building and the space, the library is a system that we're creating now and that we create, it's our public library. That access is so important. That equalizing access is so important. That representation is so important to make sure that everyone, and I really do mean everyone, feels like there's something for them at the library. That they can request books, that they can check out books, that they can engage the meeting spaces, that they can engage the events. The book festival, Six Bridges Book Festival, at the time of this recording is going on now, that there are books that everyone is interested in, that everyone can find their place at the library. I think particularly in this time where we've been through a period of, particularly during COVID, right, where folks were a little bit more insular. We had to be in a lot of ways. Many of us had to be. And so we think about those third spaces, right? Those places where we can go and meet with the people that we want to meet, but also meet with people that maybe we didn't know we wanted to meet with, and meet new people. The library really creates that. And part of what I really like about this new branch is that the building itself cultivates those things, right? When you go up the stairs and there's no door out of the stairwell, you just go up the stair and then you're in the lounge of the next library floor, right? And the circulation desk is there and the books are there. And there's couches and chairs that allow you to engage each other, engage the materials that you're looking at, and also engage the city because you're looking out onto the city of Little Rock through those glass windows. That is a real building of community and helping us think about, who we are as community, and allowing us a place to connect.
You're so good. So you really answered two of our questions in one. But that's okay. I'm going to go a little bit rogue.
Sure.
So they're probably looking at me.
No, we're not.
Very scarily off of screen. But I want to talk to you about Six Bridges. I know by the time this comes out, it will be old. But just for folks who are listening to us, Six Bridges Festival is our annual festival that we have here in Arkansas, Central Arkansas, that brings in, I just think, a phenomenal group of authors and other guests who otherwise may not come here, or we may not be able to see them or hear from them or hear about their works. I saw you at Karita Brown's book reading or opening, and she was phenomenal. And it was the battle for the Black mind.
It's an amazing conversation.
It was amazing. It was so good that I did not buy the book when I first walked in because I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to listen to her and find out more. And I left middle of her talking to make sure that I got a copy of the book because I was afraid they were going to sell out.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, what has been your favorite session during Six Bridges book festival?
Wow, that's
Mind
a
you,
really,
you've moderated a few too. So
Yeah, I moderated 2 sessions this year. So this is, it's more than 20 years old. I think it's 22nd, but it's more than 20 years old, the book festival is. And it is a really wonderful occasion, as you noted, to bring, dozens of authors to Central Arkansas, many of them for the first time. And Karita Brown, this is her first time in Arkansas. One of the sessions I moderated, Carly Ann York and Jasmine Graham, this was both their first time in Arkansas. The book festival also, in addition to having the sessions like what you described, these moderated discussions about the books, there are also workshops. I think there was a chocolatier workshop this time. There are writing workshops. There are all kinds of events and other things that are happening with the book festival. It's really a wonderful time for folks to come together. I will tell you, so people always say, like, you sort of go with your gut. So my first answer may not be exactly what you wanted, but because it wasn't this year. But 2 years ago, I was asked to moderate the first session that I'd ever moderated like this, and it was with Christian Cooper, who was, and now I'm going to...
he did the birds.
Yeah, he's a birder.
Yes.
He it was bird, and also a writer, and just science fiction. He does a lot of great things, and he was so much fun to work with and to prepare for. And I think for me, it was a really special thing. The folks who were sponsoring that, their family, the mom had been my 4th grade teacher. The son, it was their fund is in honor of their son who was deceased, their older son who was deceased. But their younger son was my classmate, my high school classmate. And so it was special to be able to think about that family who I'd known in multiple capacities. And then have that conversation with Christian Cooper. Again, it was his first time in Arkansas. And so when you bring folks here and they have such a wonderful time, and I remember writing to him afterwards because the video came out, because they record most of the sessions, video came out, and I just said, I was like, I just wanted to make sure you'd seen the video. He's like, actually, I hadn't. And he's like, I had such a good time. I had such a wonderful time in Arkansas. And it really helps. The book festival becomes an ambassador for the state. And so it was a joy to talk to him. He was sort of the first one I'd done. He was just wonderful, and we bonded on so many levels. I just really enjoyed talking with him, and it was just a wonderful way to see and engage the book festival. So very much encourage folks to engage it. As you're waiting for next year's festival, there are recordings from many of the prior years on the archive, and so encourage people to check those out.
Oh, yes. I remember a few years ago, someone came from Chicago, and she was just impressed with all the things happening in Little Rock that day. One being our very own Carrie Wilkins had a wine festival, and she went to that. Yes, so it definitely is it opens the door for people to experience.
I'll just say that as you say that, I think one of the things that's really special is when you come to this library now, and for instance, go up. We're on the 5th floor now. If you go up to the 6th floor on the roof, and you look out, it's gorgeous, right? And I think these are the kinds of things that sometimes people don't assume. If they've never been here, they don't know somebody from here, they don't assume Little Rock, Arkansas has that.
Right, yeah.
And I think it's a really wonderful opportunity. The book festival, the library itself, is just a really wonderful opportunity to welcome people to this space and to this place and show them what we have to offer.
And that's a good segue into our wrap-up question. So, when you think about this place, what do you hope residents of Little Rock and Central Arkansas take away from seeing this public space that's been reinvested in, and especially our young people? Like you talked about your daughter getting her first official document here. So just what do you hope people take away from this experience?
So I hope they know that it's their public library, right? I mean, they're the ones who've invested in this. The voters in Perry County and Pulaski County have, consistently voted to support the library. They should come use it.
Yes.
Come have a meeting here. Come book a space. Come check out a book. Come check out a fishing pole. Come check out a telescope, right? Use the seed bank. There's so many things at this library and the total of 15 branches throughout the system where folks can take advantage of that. So, I hope that people will engage it. I think there is, obviously, the children's floor is now, children's level space is now on the 1st floor. Very welcoming space, little nooks for kids to cozy up with a book. Really beautiful, wonderful, welcoming space. Wonderful tiles on the ceiling that reference, sort of key seminal children's books. That's not all the library is, right? The library is, yes, it's for kids, but yes, it's for grown-ups, right? How are you using your digital services, your digital materials? How are you engaging the meeting spaces? How are you engaging the classes? How are you engaging the writing workshops? There's so much that's going on at the library. And part of what I hope that folks will take away from it is, yes, it's yours. Use it, right? And find out the ways that you can use it. I think there are just a lot of folks who sometimes, and I was that way when I lived away for a while. I kind of forgot about the library, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, you get grown and you go on about your life, and then you have this realization of, no, this is already here, and I'm already paying for it, and it's already this wonderful resource. And so to come back home and help promote that for the people of this place that I know so many other people care so much about has really been an honor.
Karama, you're so wonderful.
She
Thank
is.
you for
you
always
all.
being a supporter of Black Belt. We're so excited to join you today. Congratulations to you and the rest of the Cows team for the opening of today's library, and we will be right back with our next special guest.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Welcome back. We are joined by our second special guest, Nate Coulter, the Executive Director of the
Yes.
Central Arkansas Library System. Nate, you are a legend in the library system world, and we've been asking our guests, tell us a little bit about your library story. How did you land here? How does one become the executive director of the library, the largest library
Well,
system?
I didn't do it in the traditional way. I had never worked in a library. I had been on the library board for 6 years back in the early 2000s, but I had practiced law for 25 years, taught law for a couple of years at the law school in Fayetteville. And so when I left that about 10 years ago and came to the library in January of 16, everybody said, why would you quit practicing law to be a librarian? No lawyer asked me that, by the way. Every lawyer knew, oh, I don't want to be a lawyer, depositions, picking juries, dealing with other lawyers. But I was interested in doing something different. Lawyering sort of looks like this, I was not opposed to some of this for a while, but libraries are more like this, like come in and see if we can find you something that you're looking for. Nobody comes to a lawyer's office on a good day. You're having a bad day, you're
Yeah.
going to be in your lawyer's office. And I would tell people for years, I'm sorry you're here. My job is to help you find from among a bunch of bad choices, which choice sucks the least.
Right.
And you got to live with that. And they're not happy about it. But so library world was a more uplifting thing. And the library board hired me on the condition that I would go back and get a library science degree. So I did that online for 3 years, and that was not always fun at age 56. And after dinner, you'd had a glass of red wine. You'd have to go there and sit down on the computer and read some things and do some things, write some papers. But anyway, that helped give me some status, maybe with the library staff who thought, what does he know about being a librarian? But I was interested in things that had to do with education and literacy. I've always probably been a book nerd from the time I grew up in a small town in southwest Arkansas. My mother, it's always bothered me that most people tell this story, and it's their mother, their grandmother, not their dad or their granddad, who take them to the library when they're kids. But my mother took me to the library, and there was a range of books that I was interested in. The librarian there in this little town I grew up in knew what those were, and she would say, we got some new books on these sports characters, or we got some new books on history. There was a series of history books written from the perspective of brother and sister. We were there at the Battle of Gettysburg. We were there at the Alamo. So I was interested in those things. So, years and years and years later, I said, well, maybe the library would be a good place for me. And most days, I think that was a good choice. Today's one of the days. Opening a library is a good choice.
Today's a great day.
Yeah.
Great day to be in charge of the library.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so remind us, how long have you been executive director?
I came in January of 2016, so coming up on 10 years.
Okay. And so since that time, we're going to fast forward to the renovation. So it grew from 5 to 7 levels here at the main library. So how do you ensure that growth will directly support programming and community needs rather than just being about adding space or a new building?
Yeah, there are two good things about that question that I can point to. One is that the architects for many, many months and the people with the leadership of the library spent time talking to the staff. What kinds of things could we do with the space that would make your work as programmers, as librarians, more effective and would enhance that and be more responsive to what the community wants. So a lot of design things were a response or a reflection of what the staff had said. We didn't take everything they said, but a lot of what they said had an impact. And then the other thing was we were always worried, constantly aware of the fact that you can add space, but you can't add space if you don't add people to work in the space. And so if you're going to take on that additional operating expense that goes with having additional space, then it needs to be something the community wants. So in the most significant ways, the two additional spaces are the rooftop and the lower level. The lower level had only been used by the public 2 or 3 times a year when we had used book sales. It was mostly a storage place. We kept all these used books that we get from people all the time.
Yeah.
That's an important library program. In effect, we take books from people who don't want to throw their books away, and we resell them. But we needed to do more down there than that if we were going to open that up and staff it. So what we're doing down there now is we moved all the computers that people who don't have connectivity typically at home can utilize. That's in the lower level. We opened up the big floor there so it's inviting, there's a flow. And we put our community resource workers down there because it gives them a little bit of privacy if someone has an issue that they're trying to get help from the library staff on the social worker side to refer them out. They might need a little privacy. So we hired social workers first time in 18, I guess I hired a social worker full-time. We were one of the first 24 libraries in America to have full-time social workers. We have 3 now. We could use 3 more, 6 more, 9 more because there are a lot of issues that people who come to the library, just like people who come to the schools, people who go people who go to the hospital, everybody has some issues that social workers are phenomenally helpful in. Let me just give you one quick example. We had someone recently, we connected to a physician at UAMS after this poor person had been underserved in several connections he had tried to make in a medical context because he was being told he didn't have insurance. He was being told that, we can't do much for you. Our social workers the case came to them. They connected him with someone at UMS. I had coffee a couple of weeks ago with his mother who lives in Houston who came up here just to thank, obviously to check on her son and support him, but to thank the library staff. She insisted on meeting. So that's what we do. We don't have to worry about that. No, I want to talk to you. So I spent a few minutes with her. But that's a clear example of what we're doing in the lower level, that we have better resources equipping us to do that. It says, look, this person needed help. He was on the verge of dying, perhaps, because his health was being neglected. He couldn't get a social worker to tend to that. We had one who connected him. Now he's being taken care of at UMS. So that happens not every day, but not infrequently either. The library might be happier if we didn't have to go into that space, but as long as the community is not doing it and other agencies are not doing it, we're going to need to do it because people come to the library with whatever issues, whatever they're experiencing, and we don't sort them at the door and say, well, yeah, you look like you're having a good day, come on in. Oh, you look like you've got some problems, go away, come another day. We take everybody. That's the mission of the Egalitarian Library, and we're doing that in the lower level. The other thing is the rooftop. My problem had been, and I was adamant about we need rooftop space. My perception had been that unless you had the money to live downtown in a high-rise condo, and I know because I had an office in one of them and it's not cheap, you didn't have access to a rooftop venue. With one exception, there's a bar on the top of the Hilton Garden Inn on Rock Street that usually is populated by young people by 5:30 or 6, and old people like me can't get in there. So if you want to go to a rooftop venue, where are you going to go? You can go to the library now. We were there last night. A bunch of us went up there after some of the author events were over, and it was lots of people up there, and they were enjoying it. It was a wonderful night. That's an opportunity. You don't have to have a reason to go up there. You just want to be up there, and you may be up there with somebody you don't know, and you get a connection, and that helps build a community. So we have a little bit of staff, but it's open all the time. If you can go up there, on a hot day, you may not want to go up there, but you can go up there. And it's just a resource that we think is going to serve the community. So those are the two significant additions to the space, the lower level and the rooftop. We rearranged some things. We brought the children closer to the ground floor, first floor and second floor, and that helps, we think. So some of it was just reorganizing in a better way, putting all the books on the second, third, and fourth floor. They had been on the first, second, and fifth floor, which is sort of jumbled up. So we think we made more efficient allocation of the space. But we did add some space, and we've added employees. We have about a dozen more employees than we had before we closed.
I will tell you, the social worker aspect is one of the things I'm most proud about as a Central Arkansas resident who supports the library, loves the library, utilizes the library. And so when you guys introduced that program, I used to go around and talk to people and go, our library has social workers. And so kudos to you and your team for being forward thinking in that and being and now to your point, we see that happening in other library systems, but so you guys were on the forefront. Now, Nate, I have lived in Little Rock a long time, and we know that you are one of our most outspoken residents. So I want to ask you about a lot of things, and want to go rogue. I really want to ask you about the library system. I want to ask you about other things. But what I'm going to ask you about, to be safe, is about the $31 million price tag that it took to renovate this building. Tell us a little bit about the funding sources and sort of how do you help people realize that the investment was worth it and why we needed it?
Well, one of the things that I think the library has done well before I got here, and I hope people would say after I got here, is we take seriously our responsibility over public money. We are good stewards with your money. And I think if you do that, then when you go back to the voters and say, we have another idea, we want to do something different, it's going to require us to do something with the tax structure differently. If you have earned their trust and their credibility because you take care of their money, you spend it in ways they can appreciate that, oh, social workers, or these are nice branches we have all over the system. And most importantly, the people in them want to help. If you do all those things consistently, people understand it's a value proposition. I'm going to pay my taxes because I like the library. Let me give you an example of why I think that's so powerful. We did this building renovation, $31 million that you referred to, with $29 million of public money and about $2 million of private money. But there was no net tax increase because what we said to the voters over a series of a couple of elections, we need more money to operate because we've hired social workers and we want to pay people, we want to be competitive with the time it was Costco and Amazon, and we weren't paying people enough. We need to pay people a living wage. So in order to get more money for paying people and having more staff, and we need them, I need you, Little Rock, to raise your commitment on the operational tax by $500,000. If you'll do that for me, then we will come back at the next election and we will lower by $500,000 the commitment you're making to the capital improvement tax. And my theory was that the voter and the taxpayer doesn't pay attention when they get the tax bill or when they pay their taxes every fall. It's coming up. They don't sort out which part goes to capital, which part goes to operations. That's on our side. But they did that. We got a 71% vote to raise the tax by $500,000. And then the next election, May of the following year, that was November 21. Then in May of 22, we did what we said. We kept our word. We said, all right, you want to lower it? 71% of the people agreed to raise their tax. Only 67% of the people wanted to lower their tax because some people said, wait, I don't want to lower Cal's tax. Yeah. But I said, that's our commitment. We want to make it a no net tax increase. So we got more money to pay people by raising the operational side, and we came back and lowered the capital improvement. But when we did that, we asked them to extend the period of the commitment. We refinanced some bonds. That's how we borrow money. Instead of going to the bank, we have to issue bonds. And that generated the $29 million that we used to renovate the library. So I hope, it's a gamble, but I hope that when people get here, they'll say, that was a good series of choices. We trust the library. Their leadership did what they said, and we're getting value out of that. We're getting a benefit out of that.
I also want to go into 30 Crossing with you, but I've been given a list of things I'm not supposed to talk about. Please, Adena.
Girl. But that trust point, like that's huge. So when you think about trust and like strengthening partnerships, just talk about how this physical environment here, this new chapter, helps you support your partnerships with like schools, nonprofits, community. We were talking at this tour day that we had, and you mentioned like even the meeting spaces. Like y'all advocated to make those more affordable for people versus only for the corporate folks. Just talk about that.
Yes, I was concerned that we not compare what maybe other venues in the community are charging for a nice space. We need to compare, we need context, but we also need to remember we're the library, and the library is generally free. Mm-hmm. We try to cover the cost. If, for example, someone wants to, we're at what I think is going to be a very popular view around the corner here of space for about 285 people, theater seating style in the Donaghy Center, we're going to charge $300 an hour after the library closes. And the reason we do that is to cover the cost of the security and safety people who need to be here to make sure everybody has an enjoyable experience. We're not making money off of it, but if we need 4 people here, that's about what it's going to cost us. So we want to cut it as close as we can, but we want to honor the taxpayers' commitment, or the commitment with taxpayers. So if we're going to spend some time after hours for Nate's group or club, or some corporate entity, we want to make sure that we do it in a way that's faithful to the taxpayers. So it's $300 an hour, that's not peanuts, but it's affordable compared to some other things. So we also think schools have an interest. I'd like to get Dr. Jamal Wright to do his podcast here. He does a podcast regularly. I told him, come down here and do your podcasts for us. And there are other people who could come and use the podcast assets. Those are free. We think that a lot of the resources in the library support the sort of scaffolding for parents and teachers and students' education. We're proud partners with all the schools, public, private, charter. We just like to be helping. We're not the primary driver of children's literacy, but we have a role to play, and we think we can do that better from this facility.
Yeah.
Well, we're wrapping up, but one kind of final question that I want you to ponder and we want to leave our listeners with is, and our people who live here and will come to the library, is when people walk out of this building today, what do you hope that they carry with them? And I would even just say, what do you hope they walk away and say to other folks in the community to get them to come and engage in the new building?
I hope they walk away feeling some level of hope and joy and that their spirits are elevated. I think a lot of people, I've been so close to it for 3.5 years since the taxpayers gave us permission to do this, that it's like a lot of things that you get immersed in, you sort of lose your objectivity. We opened on Monday, and the reaction of people who've come in this week has sort of said, yeah, maybe you don't have the best perspective because you're too close to it. These people were coming in. Somebody told me last night that she'd been brought to tears because she just was reminded of what community capacity, what opportunities to build community were here. And I think that's true. And I tried to say downstairs that there's so much opportunity here for you to be here if you will just overcome the urge we all have to stay at home. And this study that someone turned up saying that we spend on average about an hour and a half more a day in our homes than we did 20 years ago is revealed in the stats we have. Fewer people come to the library all over the country. One of the reasons is we have digital resources and people like those and we pay for those, and we're not stopping that. We want you to do whatever you want to do. But you can come to the library to do your podcast. You can come to the library for story time. You can come to the library for one of these meetings we're talking about. You can come to the library just to lounge around on the rooftop on a nice day. And when you come here, you will feel, I hope, invigorated, a little more spring in your step because you talk to people. There's all this neuroscience about just having casual conversations with strangers is a positive thing for people who do it. And my children, who are all adults, and sometimes my spouse gets so annoyed with me because when I get in the back of an Uber or I see somebody on the street while we're waiting, I just start chatting with them. And, it can be annoying, I guess, if you're the other person, but there's something uplifting about that. You can do that in the library.
Yeah, I've seen that same study. Like, just in the checkout line, you talk to somebody, it does elevate your spirits and stuff.
Yes.
Yes, I love those interactions too, usually. they're usually pretty good. Right, yeah.
Just recently, I was in line with somebody, and I wasn't very happy about being in that line. But I started talking to total strangers in the line. And we connected. We found out he knows somebody I know, and directly through a third person. And it's like the world is small, and we can overcome our differences. Maybe we're not going to overcome our substantive disputes about policy things. I'm pretty hard-headed about that. But if I can talk to you and you can look at me and then say, well, he's not a bad guy. Nate's just wrong. And he's not. I said in the 2 years we've been in this culture war of the library's content, it's a lot easier to vilify somebody in the abstract than it is when you talk to them in person. And so if we can meet people, talk to people, and I'm going to close on one thing that sounds sort of theological because I'm stealing it from a person who spoke at the library. This is what the library can do for you. We have this sort of instinct that's fight or flight, and that's part of our brain. This woman said, there's another possibility. It's hard, but it's just stay, engage. You don't have to beat them up, figuratively speaking, and teach them they're wrong, and you don't have to just, in the words of Southwest Arkansas, haul ass because you disagree with them.
Right.
You just stay in there with them. And she said, that is new meaning for what it means to turn the other cheek. I said, well, I've always heard that at church and thought that was be a pacifist. And she said, it's just, I got to stay here with you. You know, it's we may not either one ever change each other's mind, but if I'm just going to stay in this space with you, something good might happen. So that's what I hope the library can do.
And one final thought, as I heard the Winthrop Rockefeller Institute on Petty Jean Mountain, they don't encourage agreeing to disagree. They say agree to understand. So I may not, I'm going to understand you better, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go to your side or whatever, but just to understand. So this is a great place to facilitate that understanding and that shared space, shared understanding. Yeah.
Attention is a part of growth and productivity. I mean, we don't all have to accept each other's premises. We've all got different experiences, different perspectives, thankfully. But we can say, all right, I'm going to celebrate the tension that comes out of our dispute because in some way it makes us both better, it makes us appreciate the fact that there's room in this world for both of us somehow if we respectfully disagree or respectfully engage. So anyway, I'm not a philosopher, I'm a lawyer librarian. Yeah.
We love it.
All right. Well, thank you, Nate. This was beautiful space, great conversation, and we're excited to keep checking out the rest of the space. And
Use it. Tell
we
your
will.
friends to use it. It's here for you.
Yes.
It's your space and the community space, and we want people to use it. And we had, without any fanfare, we've had an average of almost 600 people a day come in the library. When we closed the library, that number had, shrunk down to somewhere in the range of 400 a day. We need to get it to 1,000 people a day. That'll put us back to pre-pandemic and even better. And again, we're doing that in a climate where people are more and more doing things online, we shop online, all sorts of things. But if we can do that, even while keeping our digital platforms out there, it means more people are getting out of their homes and coming to the library. So tell folks to come down.
We will.
If they come once, I think they'll come back.
They will.
Yes,
They will.
for sure.
We'll fix 30 Crossing and they'll definitely come.
Yes. Thanks for letting me go on and on.
We love it.
yes.
We've been tethered. If we hadn't been, I would have asked you some other stuff.
I'll come back. Thank you.
Thanks,
All right, thank you,
Nate.
Nate.
We'll be
Enjoyed it.
right back.
All right, y'all, we are back with the fabulous Tameka Lee. Tameka is the Chief Communications and Community Engagement Officer for CALS, and she has been running around today. So thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
But you wrote that title. That title is really long. You handled that nicely.
Beautiful title, yeah. 'Cause, hey, so today we've been kind of asking our guests to tell us your library story, not just here in your role as I'm not gonna say the title again because I already got it right, but not just here, but your library story, just
in general.
Yeah.
So libraries have been a part of my life actually for a long time, probably like most people who, sat in this chair today. But I actually met my husband at the library at UCA.
Okay.
So that was my first library job. That was my work study job when I was in college. And so I met him when I was a page shelving books.
okay.
And of course, just growing up, I used to use the library just like most kids do. So sometimes for fun and other times for educational purposes. So, you hit the 10th grade and you're working on those research papers and all those kind of things. So a lot of library using then. And I remember coming to Maine, but back then not realizing how new the building was, because I was in high school, 98 to, 01. And so back then, this was actually had just opened since the building opened in 97. I was like, how did I not remember that as 16 years old, that this was a brand new building at that point?
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, and before I turn it over to Kara, just how long have you been working for CALS in this
so
role?
I've been working for CALS 9 years. I started in November of 16.
Okay.
And I was the PR specialist when I started, so I've had a couple of title changes since then. So I was the PR specialist, and then I was the assistant director of marketing and resource development when the communications and fundraising was one department. And then we broke those departments into separate departments, and that's when I became the director of communications. And since then, the job itself hasn't changed a whole lot, but some of the titles and, just some of the responsibilities, but overall it's the same job.
Okay, very cool.
Well, you guys shut down about 2 years ago to get ready for the renovation, and you utilized all of Library Square and in that renovation phase. So tell us a little bit about how does it feel to finally be like back in your main building, and talk to us a little bit about like how does this shift the Library Square component? And so I'm thinking about Ron Roberts, I'm thinking about, all of the components that you guys have. And explain it a little bit, because not everybody's from Arkansas that listens to us, so they'd be like, Library Square, what is that? So,
Well, there's plenty of people who actually here who might not actually be particularly familiar with Library Square. But as far as just us being back here and in the space, even though I'm a communications person, I feel like there are no words because we are just so excited. It's been such a long journey for us. We had temporary offices that were in a location that was owned by the Port Authority, and so that's where we've been working for the last couple of years. So we were really excited to get back just from that perspective, but also working for a library but not being at a library definitely has a little bit of a different feel to it. And of course, we were excited for the patrons to be able to come back. Like today, we're using our production studio, which is one of the new features of the library. So we're really looking forward to other people being able to come in and use this space. We have a couple of teaching or demonstration kitchens that have been added. There's one specifically for the children on the first floor in our newly remodeled youth area. And then there's one that's more for adult programming. We have a maker's space and a podcasting room, which is separate from the production studio that we are in right now. We have the rooftop terrace, and we have a Boulevard Bread cafe that's downstairs, which was something that a lot of people were like, when we had our wall breaking in February of February of 24, a lot of people like that got a huge applause when we said, we are opening a Boulevard Bread cafe. It was like, yay! But as far as Library Square and what that means, the library really does have a block. So CALS has a huge section of territory, I guess, or geography on Clinton Avenue. So from Clinton Avenue, basically between Rock Street and River Market Avenue. So it is, if not an entire block, like pretty close to it. And in there we have 4 library buildings or departments, I guess you could say, because there's the main library, but then there's the Ron Robinson Theater. We have the Rocket Lab, which is our entrepreneurial hub, and then we have the Roberts Library, which is the research arm of CAL. So if people are interested in genealogy, if they are looking for some of like the microfilms and things like that, we have huge collections of like home videos and yearbooks and all these things that people might not expect, and that's what they do at the Roberts Library. That's also where the Encyclopedia of Arkansas is housed, for those who are familiar with that, or if you've ever heard of the Butler Center for Arkansas Studies, all of that is out of the Roberts Library. And so there are so many different just components of what the library does. CALS is huge, and I don't know if people always realize how much is a part of it and just how much work the staff is doing.
Yes, and like you said, it is huge. And like I don't live in Little Rock, so I never heard of Library Square, but now I'm like, all these places are right here.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So like now that we talked about outside, we're going to bring it in a little bit. So like when you think about the new and reimagined spaces, so talk to us about the programs that you're excited to bring that you didn't have the space to do before. And this room is one of them. Like actually, one of our early episodes, or maybe 1 or 2, we filmed the Black Rep Voices episode in the old podcast room. Yeah. It was nothing like this. Yes. But it was awesome. It was awesome still. But like, tell us about how not only that program but other programs are.
Yeah, I was about to say,
it was Roberts.
We still have that room inside the Roberts Library, so that's still another resource available.
That's right.
For people. But as far as just our programming, one of the things I'm looking forward to outside of some of those big things that we talked about, the teaching kitchen and the podcasting and the production, is actually just the youth space. I mean, my children are getting a little bit old for it now because my baby actually turned 11 today, and my daughter is 14. So they're at a point where it's like, okay, the youth center's not, for them, at this point. But since she is a teenager, I look forward to seeing her in the space and how she will actually how the kids will come to their own you know, just being there, because it's a space that it's a safe space for teenagers, because since we do have room here that we don't necessarily have at some of our other branches, it's nice to be able to say, yes, go to the second floor, go to the, you know, the teen area, you can read up there. We have the after school snacks as a part of our Be Mighty program. So it's really nice to be able to say, yes, teenager, go there, find some books, find some activities. And then with just the kids having so much more space than they used to have with the story time stage, I look forward to seeing other people's children enjoy that space. And I have a nephew who is 5, and so it'll be nice to see, like, when my sister has a chance to bring him and explore the space. And there's just toys and little things down there, once again, to just kind of help keep the kids engaged, a lot more interactive things than we had before that are just built in to the new space, in addition to all the hard work that our programmers are going to be doing to, you know, create these fun things. Like, we've had Bluey parties and things like that. So it'll just be fun to see all the things that they imagined when we were in this condensed version at Mini Main, what they will do now that they have so much more space.
I was looking, not that I wasn't paying attention to every wonderful thing you were saying, but I was trying to remember the branch that you all have in the system that actually has like YouTube, podcasting, and video capabilities. I feel like it's
The Williams?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
And so when you talk about teens, I guess that's where I'm going. When you talk about teens and having things that they want to do, them being able to do YouTube videos and things through the library and be able to have access to that equipment, I mean, those are the things that they're into. And so you guys are providing that, and I think that's important. We talked to Karama about, you know, all of the other things that people can do in the library. And so a lot of teens may not know about that, but I think like that's a really cool component to help draw them back in.
And that's one of the other things that it's good that you brought that up, because even though, of course, we're putting a lot of attention and a lot of focus on the main library right now because it just reopened. So, of course, we want people to know there are all these new features that are available to them downtown. But as you said, so many things are available, even thinking about our other branches. And we took some of that inspiration to make those adjustments to this building, because when we did the remodel of the Williams Library in April of, it reopened in April last year. And so it got the podcasting room. They already had a small entrepreneurial hub, but they were able to get more of a maker space because the manager there, Latina, sure does a great job of really trying to encourage that spirit of creativity and entrepreneurship with teenagers and adults. So when that building opened, it also got a kitchen. We have kitchens at some of our other libraries too. So the Children's Library has one. We also have a kitchen at the Thompson Library. And there's all these just different features. The Fletcher Library has a bird watching area. So each one has something that's a little unique and special about it. At the Dean Brown Library in Southwest, we have the Tool Library. So people who are interested in checking out, you know, power tools, even like safety goggles, things like that. We have all kinds of stuff over there. The Nixon Library in Jacksonville has toys. And so all these things are what we took into account when we were like, okay, what would be nice to put in the big hub downtown? And so there were little pieces of some of those things that we brought here.
I love that. And because it is a system, and I love that you guys were very intentional, to your point, bringing the other libraries into the big library.
Yeah. And that was part of the thinking with even the way we did the celebration. We wanted to tie in Ron Robinson. You know, we wanted to tie in the Roberts Library. We wanted to tie in the activities that take place at the Rocket Lab, because we wanted people to know, yes, the main library is the flagship. Like, we get that. Yeah. But all of these things are what make the library special. And all of these things are what make Library Square. So very much like that one library mindset. So we really took that to heart with the opening, which is why we have so many activities that we're doing outside today, because we want people to know, visit Maine, but also visit Roberts, go inside the Rocket Lab, go inside the Ron Robinson Theater, check out the book festival. So there were all these things we wanted people to know, this is what your library does for you.
I love it. You've gone through a lot of our questions.
As you can tell, I can talk about the library.
I know.
I could rattle off a lot of stuff.
We love it. We love that.
Yeah, so I think just keeping with that same vein, I'm trying to do a pivot now or later. Let's see.
As long as you kept all the hard questions for Nate, because I heard you talking about taxes and things like that. As long as you kept the hard stuff for him.
Taxes, but we can keep all of the hard questions.
Yeah, we have some little cultural. 'Cause Nate did point to some of the cultural things about the libraries right now, so we can pivot. So we'll rewind it back and pivot a little bit. Okay, so we've heard a lot of great things about the space here at Maine and throughout, Library Branch and all the cool things that are available. But we can't really, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the conversation that's been around libraries nationwide, like book bans, budgets, and what they stand for. So how do you, as Chief Communications Officer, keep the focus on access, trust, shared values that bring people through the doors and not all of these divisive things that some people want to focus on?
A lot of that, from our messaging standpoint, is tied into making sure that people understand the library is yours. So libraries, we say that a lot. This is your library. So even when we were thinking about bringing people back to Maine, even our little signs that we had downstairs, your reimagined library is now open. So we want people to have a sense of ownership, even though, of course, we're the ones who are responsible for the budget. The public do have to, and they've given us their trust, to do that, and that's how we've been able to pass successful millages, things like that. But we want people to know we care about the thing that they want to see, the thing that they want to hear, the thing that they want to read. So when we are going through and buying our books, we're of course looking at the things that are important. We're looking at just, the culture, new releases, people who are popular, to determine, okay, should we get this book? How many copies should we get? They're reading the reviews and all that kind of thing. But also people do have a chance to tell us, to request things from us. So we actually have a form online where somebody can request a title if it's something that we don't have available. But also, we really try hard to lean into just overall the human aspect of it, because it's harder to, I kind of hate to say vilify, but I mean, that's in some ways what it is when it's someone who you remember, this is your neighbor. This is your church, member. This is someone that you could come across, just at the park. And so they're not these, mysterious sort of spooky, mythical, creatures. It's like, no, they're humans like everybody else. And they are educated, they've worked hard, they do a lot of research, to try and make sure that we are taking enough respect for what librarianship is and for what the community's needs are. And then, of course, reminding people that the library, while the books and those kind of materials are the foundation, the library is useful for so many other things. So for anyone who is sort of actively working to take funding away from libraries, it's not just books, it's the other stuff that we talked about. It is those places where teenagers can maybe have a safe space. It is people who are looking to do things like use a production studio because they maybe don't have access to it somewhere else. So the library helps to be that great equalizer where it's like, yes, if you don't have access to these things somewhere else, there's a good chance that the library has whatever that thing is. And so we try to keep that very much to the forefront of our messaging so people know the library really is for everyone. It's one of the few places where it can be sort of all things to all people or anything to anyone.
You're speaking my language. It is an economic driver. Folks can come and apply for jobs using the computer. Aging individuals can come and have a space for them to get out. To your point, youth can come and learn how to use the podcast equipment, which is teaching them a transferable skill. I mean, you really can transform the library to fit your needs, and it can transform your life. And so I think you're right. Like when we lead with that conversation, hopefully it kind of depoliticizes some of the other noise that is happening, because that's one issue, and that's a personal issue when there's so much more that the library offers to the community.
And so we hope that a part of that message resonates with people, which is, I guess, where that whole marketing and communications thing comes in, because of course, everything we know is not going to, everybody's not going to respond to everything. So like, hopefully some people will respond if we're telling them, well, you know, you have access to these journals if you come here. You know that you are going to have like access to, you know, like newspapers and, you know, and things like that. So, and then other people may like the fact that you can use ancestry.com. Nate has been talking quite a bit about the system that we have access to called Brain Fuse. And Brain Fuse has tools to help with things like resumes and job applications, helping people practice interviewing skills. But there's also an element of that that is more from an educational aspect, where you can get online tutoring, you know, and then we also have like testing prep. So there's just so many things that the library has. It's like, okay, we try and take that funding and put it to very good use. And I like what you said about the library being an economic driver, because I don't think that always crosses people's mind. We had a study done some years ago, and Cal's over, I think, a 10-year period had $1 billion impact, you know, on the Little Rock economy. Because when you think about how many of us, for one, work for the library, I mean, of course, all those people are not just in Little Rock, but the library system has 300 plus employees. So when you think about even that, and of course, we spend that money in Little Rock, in the places where we live, when we have things like the book festival, people, of course, then might come into town. So then it's something that is helpful, possibly from a tourism standpoint. It helps Wordsworth and Pyramid, because those are our booksellers. So there are all these different people. There's a really good ecosystem there. And all these different organizations and businesses, we really can work together, and it's all good for what makes a thriving city a thriving city.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, more people were hired to fill the new space, as Nate told us. Like, even, So yes, it's a huge driver. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to talk about that we didn't think to ask you?
You know what? I feel like I have talked a lot.
Hey, you're doing what you do.
That's literally your job.
Yes.
But no, you ladies, but you were lovely.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't think I have anything else to add. But you guys did. You asked great questions, and it's very clear that, I mean, you respect the library. You like what the library offers. So I kind of want to hear y'all's library stories.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's see. My sister Katrina is our producer here. She's right over there. And so when we were younger, I can't remember if our younger sister went, because she's a few years younger than us. But the Conway County Library was our home library. So nice historic buildings. We would go there and check out books. But my biggest library experience was from like our school library as well, because, you know, we went to a very rural school, very few black students there. The one black educator I've had was the librarian. And so she would make a point, speaking to Libraries for Everybody, she was very intentional about ordering books from black authors. Mildred D. Taylor's books, The Road to Memphis, she like made me read those, and I enjoyed them. I was kind of like, I was like, oh, I want to read The Babysitter's Club, or oh, I want to read Lorraine McDaniel. But I mean, I read those too, which were so depressing. Lorraine McDaniel, those were kind of depressing. But I read those too, but she always pointed me toward those books. And she was there from like my kindergarten year, like it was K-12 on one campus, all the way until probably maybe 8th or 9th grade when she left. But yeah, it was just such a big impact on the way she cared for the black students. There was an official library club on campus that most of the black students are in, but there's an unofficial library club, like in the morning before school would open. We would go hang out with her, especially on cold mornings, until the bell rang. You know, me and my cousin, and like, you know, so it was just, that wasn't the public library, but it was a public school that had a library. And so in a rural area where we didn't have a branch. But so that's a big memory, plus also going to the one in Conway County in Morrilton, which was our home base. So yeah, fond memories of the library. Yeah, so.
I'm from Little Rock, and I'll bring my story more current, because I know we've told a little bit about our story earlier in the podcast. But I live in the community. I live in 10 minutes from here, and have been in downtown Little Rock for probably, well, this is my second stint. I've now been living here for 5 years, but prior to that, I lived in Baltimore, and prior to that, though, I lived in downtown Little Rock for about 2 or 3 years. So this branch, the Central Library branch, has always kind of been my home branch. And I can walk here, when you guys used to have the coffee shop on the first floor, and, I would bring my niece when the kids, area used to be on the 3rd or 4th floor. And then obviously went to many meetings using the old facility. And you guys have just always been, again, a space that can transform and be what it needs to be for the community. And so for me, I have just consistently love the library. Again, going over to Roberts, I like genealogy stuff, so like I am actually one of those nerdy people that kind of geeks out on like, oh my gosh, you can actually like do genealogy testing over there. And the fact that y'all have like experts and folks to help you with that too. And then my last like kind of just little library story is I've always said if I am not married, but if I ever got married, the kind of bank area that you guys use as like a gallery over in Roberts is where I would want to do it. Or downstairs in the like kind of basement area. So
Yeah.
I love the library.
Oh.
Yeah.
But,
So cute.
Yeah, because it would be small, whatever it is. So I was like, oh, that would be a perfect place to get married.
but that was full circle because she met her husband at the
Ah,
library.
there you go.
You were,
So see?
right. I mean,
The
it's a place
library
for
is about
love.
love.
We just wait. That's what we need to tell people. It's
That's
like,
it.
okay, if you're looking for a husband,
Catch
go to the
your
library.
man.
We're added to the list. Church, the
That's
library.
right. That's right. That's
Does
right.
it all.
That's right. Well, thank you, Tameka. You've been so wonderful.
thank
We
you.
appreciate you. And,
Yes.
good, and congratulations on such a wonderful day.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just happy y'all don't have a shoe cam.
Oh, hey, those are fly though. I like that.
Yeah. We'll be right back. We have had such rich conversation today, and we want to give a big thank you to the Central Arkansas Library System for letting Black Belt be a part of this moment, and to everyone who shared their perspective on what it means to reopen the doors and start this new chapter for Little Rock. Also, big shout out to Meredith Hale and Stone Ward for thinking about including us in today.
Yes, it was such a lovely day, and a good reminder that this is not just a building. It's a gathering place. It's a place for big ideas and stories, and a reminder that access to knowledge is for everyone. And so signing off, you've been listening to Black Belt Voices. I'm Adena White.
I'm Carol Wilkins.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts so others can find us. You can also listen to the Black Belt Podcast on most streaming platforms, including Spotify and Amazon Music. This episode was produced and edited by Katrina Dupins and Prentice Dupins Jr., with theme music composed by Prentice Dupins Jr. I'm Adena White, executive producer and founder. Black Belt is a production of Black Belt Media. Connect with us on social media and at blackbeltvoices.com.